It is another day to take a look at happenings in and around Nigeria here on the Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Good morning to you and welcome. Over the weekend, series of bad news from Oyo State. The video that emerged, or videos now, that emerged of the school teacher or the principal of Ahoro Esinale Community High School. She was speaking from captivity following the recent attacks on schools in Orire local government area of Oyo State. It was a very sorry sight. Over approximately 2 minutes of two videos, two women pleading on the government to come to their aid. We get to play you that video as we get to that part of the show. Also, over the weekend, there were reports of another incident involving Agune Chamber operatives here in Anambra State, but precisely, according to reports that made it to the media, men of Agune Chamber were allegedly pursuing a criminal, and the shots at the criminal, and unfortunately, the bullet hit a woman who was on a bike. She fell off and was confirmed dead on the spot. As at the last time I checked, I haven't seen any official reports on that matter. But that's one of the things that we saw over the weekend. I am Chisom Chinedu. Franklin Ibuka is here. Good morning, Frank.
Yes, good morning, Chisom. Good morning to everybody listening to us. And just to remind you that we are live on our Facebook page, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. So you can check out the proceedings in the studio here. We also live on our Instagram and your YouTube platforms at Udala Radio. So join us on these platforms. Let's get to make sense as our development we have this very morning. Just to mention something, Chisom, that I caught my fancy. On Saturday was International Day of the Boy Child, and interestingly, we have International Day of the Girl Child always being celebrated. People having events here and there because we believe that we have to train up the girl child so that she can become responsible, become good to the society. Sometimes we tend to forget that we also need to train the boy child so that he can as well become responsible and be ready for marriage so that we can have a responsible family. We live in a time whereby we now see boys growing into men without having emotional maturity, without having positive masculinity. They grow up with some kind of erroneous perception. That's why encouraging groups and the NGOs for them to get involved in this kind of activities to help to train the boy child so that they can grow up to become a real man. Encouraging the likes of a group known as, I think it's called E-Keepers. Yes, I think that should be E-Keepers. You know, people who took their time to organize event for boys in secondary school in Oka on that very Saturday, where they got to train them on certain areas of life. The issue of career choice. It talk about emotional intelligence, emotional balance, positive masculinity, gender-based violence, and what have you. So plenty of things they taught them about, and all these things we are geared towards ensuring that they get to develop into responsible men, so that we can begin to have a responsible families. At this time, where a man and a woman, they get into marriage in a matter of 6 months, they say they cannot live again because of irresponsible, or rather because of irreconcilable differences. And when you look at it, you see that perhaps the woman was trained to be responsible and the man was not trained to be responsible. So that gap needs to be closed. While we are training the girl child, we also need to train the boy child so that two of them can become ready for life after their adolescent time. Then you talked about the report about Agone Chamber operative killing a woman somewhere in Anambra State. Last week we talked about it here, why there is need for monitoring, why there's need for supervision, and why there's need for consequences for action, so that if such things happen, whether by accident or by commission, there should be consequence for an action. And on a final note, I saw a report that came out from the police that was on Sunday. Police called it an advisory to people. They said people should not resist arrest when they have been arrested, even when you think that the arrest is not justified. Police gave an advisory telling people of Anambra State, when you see police arresting people or when you are being arrested, do not resist. Rather, follow the police and ask the questions why you are being arrested. Follow them. When you get there, you have the right for you to lodge complaint and what have you not. That sounded, good on the surface level, but when you go deep, you see that it cannot hold water, because we live in a country where we live with ugly incidences involving police, whereby you are arrested unjustly, you are arrested where you have been assaulted, and in most cases, when you are arrested, you are taken to an unknown destination where you are intimidated, terrified, and even in some cases, I heard that police sometimes they will execute mock killing, where it's assumed that you are killed. You might even think that you have been killed, but you are not killed, just to terrify you so that you'll be able to part with whatever they wanted you to part with. So the thing is, I think the police should concentrate on trying to train the men for them to understand the rudiments of making an arrest. Because if we are going to go by what the law says, before you arrest any person, you should be able to tell the person why the person is being arrested. But in our own case, when you ask police why you're being arrested, the next thing is an assault. And it's also on record that if police arrest you, they should give you opportunity for you to communicate somebody and tell them where you are being taken to. But in our own case here is that police will arrest you and prevent you from communicating to anybody. They put you in excommunicado. You can't talk to anybody. And so why won't people now resist arrest if they are put through this kind of ordeal in the hands of the police? So police, if they can pay attention to issues about training their men on how arrest is being done, that's the only way they can come for arrest. People will willingly go with them. But once people know that if you are arrested, even if you are innocent, it got to nearly something. Once you get to the section, you must put in something for you to be freed again. So if this is a situation, that's why people will always resist being arrested by the police, because they know that once they get to the station, the story is likely to change.
When you just mentioned there's a major concern, because more often than not, a lot of Nigerians tend to, resist arrest, because how is it said now? I know follow. Bail is sadly so not free, as much as the Nigerian police also always say bail is free. You get to any police station, one of the first things you see pasted on the walls is bail is free. But unfortunately, the average Nigerian who's ever been behind counter, for the want of a better word, knows that bail is not free. But you raise a concern, something that I also feel a tad guilty of, and that is the fact that International Day of the Boy Child, everyone went about their businesses like nothing was happening. And you see, when we talk about the boy child not getting the kind of attention the girl child gets, it's an actual thing. A lot of persons didn't even know that Saturday was International Day of the Boy Child, because we don't have NGOs, we don't have organizations going all out to organize programs, mentorship events and all of that for the boy child. And I think we can do better as a society. We can do better as a people. When you see events like International Day of the Girl Child, it is mostly championed by NGOs and individuals who are pro womanhood, who have been about girl child advocacy. So it is me now calling on men to be very interested and involved in male child advocacy. If you think the male child is being left behind in this grooming, in this mentoring, in this better upbringing, then you better get to the field. Okay, roll up your sleeves. There's a lot of work to be done. Let every man out there get involved. We have women championing the Girl Child Initiative, the grooming, the exposure. I'd love it if more men are going to actually get involved. But then we're not alone in the studio. Dr. Tony Olisambeki is here. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. If you talk early. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, India Nambera. Good morning, Ndi Onitsha Donido. Good morning, Ndi Osumo. Good morning, Ndi Banye Omunna. Good morning, everyone, even the artisans, the pensioners, the teachers. And we are talking about the boy child. You talked about it. It was yesterday or the other?
On Saturday.
It was on Saturday, International Day for Boy Child. Many people don't even know what a boy child faces. Most times we focus our attention on girl child. The boy child, they face a lot of things. And one thing is very certain. If you compare a boy child and a girl child begins to get self-awareness, self-consciousness earlier than the boy child. They may be of mate, but at a point in their lives, the girl child has become completely self-aware, self-conscious of who she is. But unlike the boy child, that is still betting, rubbing the stomach. So they pass through a lot, both emotional, psychological, traumatic, and a lot of indices and a lot of rejections and so many things that are attached to that. Pressure, most times why they'll be coming up, the parents will be telling them the need for them to start taking care of the younger ones, to provide money. If you go straight to different roads, you see them hawking, carrying all manner of materials or commodities on their head because the family is putting pressure on them. They pass through a lot, but that's not the time to talk about them. But most times when I see these people, I feel for them. Not that the girl child is not also pressured, but not as pressured as the boy child. We thank God Almighty for a day like this. Today being the 18th today, in the month of May. May is actually running very fast, and we witness primaries across different political divides. I think most especially the APC. But that's one of the things we're going to talk about later. We thank God Almighty for His grace, for His love, for His kindness, for His mercy, for all He has been doing for us and keeps doing for us. We are very, very grateful for all that. And then for you listening to us, there's no other place to get the right information, to be self-aware, to be self-conscious, to know certain things, not just your rights, why things are happening and the reasons behind these happenings and the antecedent and precedents, as we have always cited, and the laws empowering or not empowering some of these development. That's why we're here, and we'll never disappoint you, because for me, this is the last bus stop for you to get any information on anything you would also wish. You're welcome. I would also encourage you to sit back and enjoy the program, but I believe we're going to talk about the advisory Franklin mentioned about the Commissioner of Police, what he said about arrest. Of course, we must stop commercializing arrest. It is something we must sound to the police. Arrest must be not commercialized, because when you commercialize things, people will react.
Everything about the Nigerian police force is commercialized.
People will react, and you tell them, don't give us that reaction, just cooperate. It doesn't work that way. You must do what you're supposed to do. Just like we were talking about the need for them to train and make your arrest professional. Don't make your arrest to be a Gestapo, commando style, and then unprofessional and tell people to cooperate. I'm not saying that people should not cooperate, but it must begin from your own end. Definitely, if you make it professional, nobody will resist arrest naturally, organically. Even those who are caught in the act, you must make your arrest professional. Questioning why you are being arrested always resulted in a hot slap. You call it assault, but I have to mention what it is. Hot slap, beating.
You mean assault?
That's what.
Because sadly so, what we witness is these officials assaulting Nigerians, Tony.
That's what we are saying. And they go scot-free. I have always said, you can't give somebody a gun and then ask the person to go and do public work with a gun. You do not monitor the person. I have always been a strong advocate of body-worn cameras. You must monitor these people. And the issue of giving these people on road targets. I have met many policemen on road asking for money. And they told me clearly, in plain terms, that they remit this money to the station. That's what they told me. They remit this money to the station. What about that? Who gives them this target? Who commissioned them to be on the road to be taking that money? There are a lot of things we must iron out. That's why I said we need holistic reform as far as our policing system is concerned, and we must bring it down where the people will own the police. Police should be the people, I don't want to call it property, but people's institution. People should take maximum ownership and also supervise. They should play that supervisory role and contribute. Like, why is it that some people don't even contribute, donate money to the police? Ordinarily, I had seen situations where out there in many places people commit money for good work they are doing. If you do any good work, we see how people commit money to that. Where people don't commit money is that because you don't have a good image. Once you have a good image, you will see donors, you will see partners, you will see people that will be committing money as against being on the road. Why you on the road is because you've lost that image, you have lost that goodwill. There's no more goodwill, and that's why you're on the road. We must see what we can do to bring back that goodwill. We must bring it down. bring it back, and it's in a way will be our police, not their police, our own police.
All right, then we're going to tell you what the front pages of the papers say, and then we dive into the analysis proper. Politically, it was an interesting weekend, especially for the APC folk. But then on our desk this morning, there is the Daily Trust. We have the Vanguard, the Guardian, and the Punch newspapers. On the front page of the Daily Sun, 2028 APC faces revolt from trapped disgruntled aspirants. On page 6, hundreds of aspirants decry imposition the seats. Interesting. Page 6, Senate Okowa Magege battle for soul of Delta APC. Page 27, the Radaris Shetima withdraws from Kaduna Central race, calls for party unity. Banks under pressure to turn 4.65 trillion naira capital profits into real growth. Yoruba land under siege. Afeni Ferrer raises the alarm. Naptan talks tasks Makinde. Security agencies on speedy release of kidnapped Oyo teachers and students. On page 4, outrage persists over high parking fare at MM2 Lagos. Page 25, we have no plans to reduce tariff by Courtney. That's it there. Marketers fight Dangote over plans to block petrol import permits. Say Nigerians' interest must triumph over single player. On page 25, and finally on page 27, 2027, PDP camps clash over nomination of candidates.
Okay, so over to Vanguard newspaper, and the big story there says APC primaries, powerful reps among 50 losers. Mutu, Gaji, Etaba, Ihombere, others miss out. Speaker Abbas, deputy, others secure return ticket. On page 5 of Vanguard newspaper. This is coming from the primaries of the APC for House of Reps, which were conducted on Saturday. Another story here says kidnapping, Senate vows to fast-track state police as IJP visit Oyo. On page 38. Ebola, NCDC activate emergency surveillance as WHO declares international emergency. On page 9 of Vanguard newspaper. Manufacturing exports stagnate despite rising trade value. On page 11 of Vanguard newspaper. Power sector biggest scam in Nigeria. Ajero NLC president. On page 4. Pencon plans jumbo pension for police. On page 8. Fertilizer plants, Dangote vows to ensure food security in Africa. On page 12 of Vanguard newspaper. Then there's an advertorial on the front page from activism to power, why Nigerians are standing with Tinubu again 2027 to 2023. Somebody actually put that up there for Mr. President. So these are the headlines on the front page of Vanguard newspaper.
Let us head over to the Guardian. The banner headline on page 6 says Tinubu faces 2027 pushback as opposition targets stronghold. Fiscal year defined by law, not calendar, says Budget Office. On page 3. Primaries, 7 Benue reps, Majority Leader Farouk Lawan lose tickets. On page 3. Afeni Ferrer alerts on rising terror attacks in Southwest, tasks governors. On page 3. Horiwa Serap seek probe of diverted 34.53 trillion naira, 800 billion naira FAC allocation. On page 5. Assailants behead 3 women in Enugu communities. That's really sad. On page 12. Anxiety over energy security interests as downstream sector faces stress test. On page 6, World Health Organization emergency over Ebola outbreak as NCDC intensifies surveillance. On page 5, and military says no U.S. troops joined ground operation against ISIS leader. On page 9, what's even more interesting is the story surrounding the supposed elimination of this ISIS leader. Frank, isn't it the same, or isn't he the same man who we're told sometime in 2024 was eliminated?
Yes.
Or maybe he has a double.
Well, I listened to the explanation which was given by the defense headquarters saying that the one they killed in 2024, that he operated with a similar alias as the one killed on Saturday. But the thing is this, it's all about damage control, because I have read Bayon Anoga, trying to do his own control narrative I also listened to Defense Headquarters. But we know that in 2024, when he was reportedly killed alongside about 8 other terrorists, it was celebrated, and nobody gave us the chance of it could be a mistaken identity. But because of what happened on Saturday, we're now getting different kinds of explanations. So, and that tells you that something is wrong, because if we are going to give explanations to everything we do regarding our anti-terror activity, that means something is not adding up. We know the story of Abubakar Shekau. He was killed not less than 3 times before he was eventually killed.
Are we sure he's been killed?
So that gives you that.
Isn't that the same story with Gentle the Yahoo?
Yeah. So it gives that room for that very doubt about how we keep records, because if you get into the battlefield and you're able to eliminate people who were not totally obliterated, because had it been that the person was totally damaged, you could not say that you can't identify the person. But for you to have been able to identify the person and say this was the person we killed, only for you to turn around 2 years after to say that it was a mistaken identity, something is not adding up.
A final story here is Africa has self-sufficiency, food export capacity, Dangote insists. That's in Panorama, page 2. That's it on the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
Okay, that's one headline we read about, Asiland killing somebody in
Enugu 3
State.
women.
Now, the thing is that the headline might not give you the true picture of what happened, because what happened is that it was 2 separate gruesome killings that happened in communities in Igbo local government area of Enugu State, and it happened in 2 families. In one of the families, a 40-year-old man, Onyebuchi Anekwe, he allegedly used cutlass to behead his 60-year-old mother, Felicia Anekwe. So, and when he did that, there was this very mob action on him, but police was able to intervene on time, and they rescued him. In fact, police recovered the severe head of the murder, and also get the guy. The guy is in non-police custody after he had been taken to hospital for treatment. Then look at the second story.
What's his story?
For now, nothing has been
established.
Nothing has been put out as the main cause. But the second story is what the police is trying to attribute to ritual killings, because the one that happened at Mborogu Ukehe community, they said just few minutes after it happened, the one in that community also happened, as if it was something planned. So the one that happened in second community, that is the Agwe Kwebe community, it was also a man called Joshua Eze who hacked his sister to death. Not just his sister alone, her little daughter was also hacked to death with a cutlass. This is one police is saying that from its investigation so far, it's been linked to ritual killing. It's quite a sad one, I must tell you. I don't know where they're getting those kind of ideas of, it kills somebody and then it makes you to become rich. On Punch newspaper, the big story there says Oyo school attack. Senate Yoruba leaders demand action as distress videos emerge on page 9. It has riders abducted principal, hostages plead for freedom as police probe viral footage. Afenifere wants Yoruba land on Yoruba Obas Council, others condemn abduction. Senate moves to expedite state police after kidnappers hold on to 89 students in Oyo, Borno. Okay. OT LP rejects Abure's 2027 nomination form sale on page 45. What is Abure doing? I don't know whether it's because we are not taking something seriously. Because if we are doing that, why would Abure still be parading himself as Labour Party national chairman to the point of even selling form? Do you know that this can be considered as obtaining by false pretense? Because Supreme Court has already ruled that you are no longer the party national chairman. INEC has recognized another Osman, and you're still going ahead to make people to purchase form under what arrangement? I don't know. I don't know what police is waiting for, because this is just like trying to rob people. Police will move in on Abure and get him arrested so that he'll be able to understand the implications of what he's doing in flagrant abuse or violation of Supreme Court judgment, the highest court of the land. Then another story we have on the front page of Punch says Dangote raises Ethiopia investment to $4 billion on page 34. Nigeria tightens surveillance as Ebola kills 80 in Congo on page 8. Hoodlums rape Lagos sexagenarian to death on pages 4 and 5. FG cracks down on unapproved contract variation on page 33. Oil nears $110 per barrel as Trump threatening strike on Iran on page 33. Primaries APC reps fight back after ticket losses on page 2. 63% of Nigerians want interest rate reduced. CBN survey on page 34. Why won't Nigerians want that reduced? Because you go to borrow money for you to plow into business. The interest rate alone is going to scare you. Even for you to borrow from microfinance bank, the interest rate is in double digit. And then you imagine the kind of profit you are going to make to be able to pay back the loan you have taken. These are the stories we have on the front page of these papers.
And of course, we're going to be starting off with the political scene this morning. But do not forget, we are live on Facebook. Udala Radio 104.7 FM is our handle. Drop your comment right there. And do not forget to follow us across all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, Facebook. And so over the weekend, the All Progressives Congress APC House of Representatives primaries happened, and it brought about a major political upset across the country, with more than 50 serving lawmakers reportedly losing return tickets ahead of the 2027 elections. We have prominent incumbents from states like Delta, Adamawa, Nasarawa, and Ondo being defeated, while there are allegations of imposition, consensus manipulation, and of course some irregularities that trailed the exercise. We saw videos of alleged what do I call it now, messing with the numbers. We also saw some prominent figures, especially in the Nigerian entertainment space, losing out on the primaries. And of course, Tony, there's been a lot of talks about how there's been some sort of a major upset. We understand that there is yet to be a total release of the full results of the primaries. And I don't know how many places are probably left or how many is left. However, we understand that the APC has asked the persons who are aggrieved to accept their fate and stay loyal to the party. So I'd first like to know your assessment of the primaries that happened over the weekend before we dive into other matters.
Well, it has come and gone because the primaries definitely will come in different stages. We witnessed that of House of Representatives at different federal constituencies. No doubt, the first report we got was where Cubano Chief Priest Pascal Okechukwu, where it was alleged that he has lost the primary to the incumbent, but he came out and said, he didn't lose anything. What he said was that it was agreed that it was not his local government turn for such primaries, for the representation, that he has to wait until when it is his local government. But Nigeria...
That has to be his second response. His first response was what I call crying foul about betrayal.
Apart from that, he was trying to give reasons. The truth remained, he participated in that primaries because he made video while he was actually going to the primary venue. He made video. And when he got there, when it was announced that he didn't make it, in fact, we saw Chei Tinubu consoling him. And Chei Tinubu couldn't have consoled him or encouraged him if he had not participated in the primaries. Well, we know what happened. He thought that doing the city boy of a thing would have been a guarantee for him to be the ticket holder. But he was disappointed. And there we are many who were actually disappointed. Just like we are saying, the primaries. Of course, we're going to see the senatorial primaries. I don't know if the senatorial primary has also been done. It has not been done. So we're going to wait for the senatorial primary. What we have so far is the House of Representatives primary. In fact, it exposed a lot of things. It's opened so many people's eyes. It's not by shouting on your mandate we shall stand. After shouting on your mandate we shall stand, you will be given a return ticket. I remember when many of these House members went to meet Mr. President through their leadership so that they will be given return ticket. They had asked Mr. President for return ticket for complying with everything he brought before the House. Budget, they will pass it as the way you want, and they are all loan, because before Mr. President will borrow any money, we have to write to both the Senate, he will write to the House of Representatives, and if any of them says no, he won't go on to make the borrowing. Whenever we criticize the president for making borrowings or for borrowing, you should also criticize the National Assembly. National Assembly approves. They have approval power. If they say no, the president cannot go on.
So are we having another rubber stamp?
But the point is, people will forget the National Assembly and keep accusing the president of borrowing. He will be the one that will initiate the process. But these people have the power to stop it. And when somebody has power to stop something and the person fails to do so, so when you are blaming the initiator, you also blame the person that has power to stop it, that couldn't stop it. But that's by the way. The point I'm trying to make is, they have gone to meet Mr. President. They had wanted something much more better, but it didn't happen the way it was speculated. And many of them are left reasoning what could have been their sins. But I must put it this way, that probably they did not commit any sin. They did not. The issue was the power brokers decided what they decided. It's not by shouting on your mandate which shall stand and you will get tickets. You are never promised return tickets. Now the papers we've looked at, some of them are suggesting 50% of them are not returning. And the point is, they cannot defect. Were they not the one that made that law? They made it. Were they not the one that removed delegate primaries? They made it. Now it has backfired and is haunting them. When you were making these laws, you did not consider your chances. If they had not made a law of moving, and it was speculated that they made a law for some people, so that they cannot move from one political party, and it was initiated, they opted in and endorsed it. Now they cannot defect. So what it means that once you lose primary election ticket, wait for next 4 years. Since history of our democracy from 1999, it has never been this way. Many people who are currently at the Senate couldn't have been there if not for the fact that they lost primaries and they were quick to switch. If you come to Anambra State, likes of Victor couldn't have been at the Senate because he lost after primaries. For whatever reason, he moved to Labour Party and he is now there as a senator representing Anambra Central. The same thing goes to Uche Aniyokonkwo. He lost at Abga and many other people, not just them. Now, the very vehicle, the very avenue that brought many of them to the Senate, they shut it down, thinking that their own seat is protected. They shut this avenue, they shut these small spaces. Now, they are the ones who are going to suffer because they are going to wait till the next election cycle. It is unbelievable. And what they may be doing now is this. They may say that, you know what, we can still do internal abracadabra. Maybe many of them may think that what happened in Edo State would happen. Remember, during the governorship election in Edo State, APC had their primaries and then declared Dennis Idahosa as the queen of the primary, not even Obebelo. But Mr. President redirected that the primary be repeated. And the primary was repeated, and that was how Obebelo came out. Many of them will be pushing that their own primary be repeated. I know many of them will not rest. Do you know what it means for you to be out of power for good 4 years? And where they have invested so much in such cycle, I know they will be pushing, making frantic efforts. Look at what happened in River State. All the rep members associated with Fubara disqualified. Their own was that they were not even allowed the House of Representative ticket from being at the State House of Assembly. He is now going to the Federal House of Representatives. In fact, he's going to the Federal Assembly as his reward. He had wanted to be the governor, but his political master Wike told him, no, calm down. Wike wants to make Honorable Chinda the governor, though he asked another man to pick up a ticket so that it will be competitive. It wouldn't be that Chinda will be coronated. From reports I got, I remember Chinda has been on his own side. I remember when Chinda was made the minority leader. But the point I'm trying to make here is this. The battle of who is who battle of superiority. In fact, Wike surprised many. He's not even a member of APC, but he has strong hold. He has a strong influence. Fubara will be shaking because there will be primary election between Fubara and Chinda. Who is going to make it? And that will tell you who the God has blessed, or the gods. Let me use the word gods.
So in your judgment, Tony, would you say that APC primary over the weekend is a proof of the democracy that the ruling party has promised?
Well, if you ask me, we saw the viral video. Many viral videos where they were counting 1, 2, 500, 300, 900, 1,200. I saw that. And I said, what kind of counting is this? Not just one.
And no one revolted.
No one revolted. And they queued up. I said, if this is the direct primary people we are championing, it's better we write off primaries and end up with consensus arrangements. Whoever that the party says will be the candidate, let the person be the candidate. Because for me, it is an abomination. Abomination. That's what I saw in the field.
So this is my problem, right? If you think that the primary of the APC, they couldn't even get it right. It was a sham. Yes, because elections are supposed to be the biggest test of democracy, where numbers are supposed to be accounted for and are made to count. If the internal affairs of a party is a sham, what happens to where this party unfortunately decides what happens at the political sphere of the nation? And again, I am also curious to find out. We understand that the electoral law has, or the new electoral act rather, has cordoned off on defections. And all of this bad blood now that would be within the party, is it going to spill over when it starts boiling?
Well, it is very disturbing. Just like I said earlier on, I'm going to let you know that when you mix up with the primary elections, which is internal democracy of a political party, how would the party tell you that they are democratic in whatever they do? Because if they mention the word democracy, we tell them from your primaries, you are not. And many of them were schemed out. I'm looking at some of these major, heavyweights. Look at Julius Igovere, lost the APC ticket for Owan Federal Constituency in Edo State. But people were saying it was as a result of the stolen arrangement between Owan East and Owan West that worked against his third-term ambition, leading to the emergence of Andrew Ejabwe. Julius, I'm just trying to use his case.
How do you do two terms? I'm also curious to find out. We did an electoral act, and there are certain things that we have still not touched on. Things like this do or die thing. Frank, the person you were telling me about in Delta State that was still walking around looking for where primaries were being held and results were being announced already, has been in the house since 1999. Did they keep your placenta there?
The point is, power is intoxicating. You wouldn't want to live there.
Why are our laws not detoxicating it?
They will tell you where we copied it from. There are some American lawmakers that have been in the house from 1975 to today.
Obviously, what we have here are non-performing lawmakers.
They will tell you how these things are done in US, that it is limitless.
And we forget the performance.
But that's
true.
There
to back it.
But my concern, let's quickly look at some of these big names that lost out in one way or the other. If you go to Imo State, I'm aware that Matthew Nwogo lost in Abombi saying Gopala. And it was as a result where we are told that the party stakeholders and grassroots restructuring within the party, they are not happy with him. They are not, but he sang on your mandate. Are you going to talk about what also happened around you go to places like Akwanga, Nasawa, Egon, Jeremiah Umaru, they lost, Ismail Kayode lost, Mansua Musa, many of them. How many can we? But if you look at it, when we say 50%, it means that half of them did not make it. They had this thing in mind. That was why they went to meet Mr. President. Mr. President, we have done everything for you. We have supported your government. We have passed every law, every appropriation law you brought before us. We have approved every loan request you have made. We have been, in fact, let me use your word, Chisholm. We have been a rubber stamp to you. Now, Mr. President, it is time for our reward.
It's not my word. I wasn't the one that called him rubber stamp.
But you know what? I remember Wajabina, who had said it is better for them to remain rubber stamp as against fighting the president, but that end was President Muhammad Buhari, not President Bola Tinubu. So many Nigerians have called them rubber stamp. That's according to so many Nigerians. Now the question is that they had wanted their reward. What is our own reward? And Mr. President told them, your reward is go and face your constituencies, the stakeholders, and then see what you can make out of it. But for my support, I'm going to give you my support. But many of them, they went back. Different reasons. In Imo State, I was told that Governor Hope Uzodinma decided who will make it and who will not make it. From what I was told, it's not by making noise that he decided. Recall that they had wanted to remove him as APC Governors Forum. Mr. President intervened. They accused him that the deductions different APC government made for Mr. President election, that he could not account for it when they were not seeing accountability on his own part. They moved to remove him. They called emergency meeting. But behold, the man they were calling emergency meeting for stormed the emergency meeting. And before then, he had had engagement with Mr. President. Mr. President, at that emergency meeting they had called to remove Hope Uzodinma, called them to stop the process. What was their anger? That he could not account for deductions, allegedly, because we never knew that some states were making deduction from their money for Mr. President's re-election bid. But we were told that Hope Uzodinma later made accounts. In fact, he accounted for these things. And he was protected. But outside that, we've seen that he has, most governors, remember when the president says, or when the party says, the leader of any political party structure in a state is the governor. The exception is River State. Can you imagine? He has shown that Wike is both the leader of APC and leader of PDP in River State. Fubara, not even one of your candidates, not even one, made it. They could not pass screening. We are not talking about primaries. They could not. Wike allies all made it. Some were even elevated. It now dawns on Fubara. I wonder how Fubara will win APC primary election. When he moved to APC, many thought that he would get that protection from the president. Many thought that even the governor of Imo State would have protected him. But for APC to flagrantly disqualify his men, that leaves him to say bye-bye to his office.
So let's look at
I have a couple of questions I have to raise here. This very primary election is the first test of the 2026 Electoral Act that was recently signed into law by Mr. President. So the very first test is with the APC primary, and it's been Anyamuntimo here and there. But somebody might say that before time that it was predictable because the president made it clear that governors have control of party structure in their respective states. So what that simply means is that governors will decide who gets a ticket, whether you are a senator, you're a House of Rep member, or you are going for the state house. Now let's start from the beginning. Would you say that those people who didn't get a ticket, that they were shocked that they couldn't secure the ticket? That's number one. Then number two, from what happened, what we have seen in some places, I will cite an instance with the House member who has been in the House since 1999, representing the Bomadi Patani Federal Constituency of Delta State, talking about Nicholas Mutu. He failed to secure his return ticket, and he had been in that very house, or he has been in the House since 1999. If you count the years, you will see how many years he has spent in the House. So he failed to get return ticket. And some persons will say that seat was not meant for him alone. So if you have in mind this, have in mind what happened to Ihombere in Edo State, where because of zoning arrangement he couldn't return. Have in mind what happened to some other persons even in the north. Then you have in mind what happened to Yusuf Buhari, his very first time of attempting to go to the House of Reps, and he secured tickets on consensus basis. Would you say that this is democracy at play? That's the second question. Then we now get to the area of what can we say actually was the mode of primary election for the APC? Was it a hybrid? Like when I say hybrid, I mean, was it consensus combined with direct system? Because in some places like Ebonyi State, it appeared as if it was consensus, but in many other places, it appeared as if it was direct primaries. And sometimes, if you look at the figures that were put out there, you now begin to question whether it means that APC does not have membership in this very state. And then, do you think that the ruling party used the instrumentality of law to ensure that nobody gets to sabotage the party after primaries?
Well, if you look at the first question, is it democracy at play or what you may call it? For me, the one I saw, I can only comment on the one I saw. I cannot comment on the one I did not see. The one I saw, most videos I saw the counting. 1, 2, 3, 50, 100, 201, 203, 204, 500, 501, 500. For me, that's not democracy. What kind of counting is that? I don't know if that counting is Aramic counting. Aramic counting is not even that way. But it's invention. That for me, we are told. But for me, if you come to Oshimili and Yocha Federal Constituency in the other states, Ngozi Lawrence